How are you feeling?
Not good now that if you get $10,000 and we get these.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:30.
Just theater.
And if we could ask everyone to stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if the principals and directors could introduce their new staff members, that would be great. Don't all jump.
I'll pick them first, and then I'll just stand up there.
I have with me tonight two new staff members. I have first, I'd like to introduce Megan Gallipo. Megan, come on up. Say hi. Megan did her undergrad at Keene State and her graduate work at UNH. And she's teaching grade 2 for us at Center School. She's off to another fabulous start for us. I say another because she's been with us for many, many years in multiple different roles as tutors, as long-term subs, Title I coordinator for the building, and she's always been a truly great asset to the school, and we're just pleased to have her here at Center School. So welcome, Megan Gallipo. Stay here while I invite Tara up. Come on up. Tara Harris has a unique role this year, and I appreciate you helping us out with a new role created at Center School. This is a job share position. Tara is the other half of the nursing office at Center School. She's teamed up with Nurse Maloney at Center, and Tara did her undergrad at Old Dominion, and then she did her nursing degree at ECPI. I don't know what that stands for, but she went to ECPI, and she did wonderful. And Tara's been with us before as well. She filled in with us a few years back as a one-on-one special needs nurse that we needed to have for a special circumstance. And then she's done some substitute nursing for us over the past several years. So she's been a really seamless addition to Center School because she has a true understanding of what's going on with the young ones and everyone at Center School. So again, welcome Tara Harris to Center School. One gentleman who I introduced to you last year is Joe Roberto. He had been filling in last year as a long-term sub at multiple schools, but he is on full-time here at Center School. I didn't bring him tonight because I introduced him last year to you guys, but Joe is also on full-time at Center School in grade 2. So exciting stuff happening at Center, so I appreciate the new staff that I have, and thank you so much. Any questions for the new staff?
No, I just want to say, we have the neighborhood pool, like swimming pool.
Oh, I thought it was a
And like-
a gambling
It's like-
pool.
no.
I want it in.
There's like 15 kids or so.
Yeah.
And Miss Gallipo, they haven't seen the nurse yet.
Yeah.
Miss Gallipo and Mr.
Roberto.
Roberto
Yes.
gotten kudos in the pool.
How about that? Great
Lots of
news.
good things.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to introduce our new child and family interventionist. This is Haley Patton. Haley has her bachelor's degree in psychology with an emphasis in mental health from Plymouth State University. Correct me if Haley received her master's degree from Riviere in clinical psychology with an educational specialist certification in school counseling K-12. She also worked as a guidance intern at Winnicott High School before joining SAU 90 as a paraprofessional at Center School. And Haley covered a long-term substitute position for us when Miss Bassett went on maternity leave at the academy last year. She's also worked with families in a therapeutic setting when employed with Massachusetts Mentor and has experience working with children in various developmental ages. So welcome, Haley. She's been doing a fantastic job.
She was a great middle school student, too.
Good evening. How is everyone?
Good.
All right, so you'll have to bear with me because I have quite a few people to introduce and I didn't memorize all my notes. so I'm gonna have to read a little bit tonight. But we're gonna start with the new staff from Hampton Academy, and Dave and I would like to introduce Raya Quinlan, Jessica Goldfisher, and Ben Francisco. Okay, and I'll go order by grade. So Raya is taking the 6th grade case management position, and she is a certified general special education teacher with a degree from SAU in English education, and she's pursuing her master's in special education. She has 4 years of teaching experience in special education from abilities 3 to 8, and prior to Hampton Academy, she was a case manager at Cooperative Middle School, and most recently, she came to us from SAU 21 Northampton. Next is Jessica Goldfisher, and Jessica is filling the case management position in 7th grade, and she's a certified special education teacher with a bachelor's degree from Hunter College in New York, and she has worked as a special education teacher at the Collaborative Arts Middle School in Springfield Gardens, New York, for 3 years, servicing middle school students, and most recently, she's been a special education teacher at Somersworth High School in Somersworth, New Hampshire, and she was overseeing and providing services at the Monitor Students Program, and so we're really excited to have Jessica join us. And last but not least from Hampton Academy is Ben Francisco. Ben has his bachelor's degree from Champlain College in secondary education and English, and he holds a master's degree from Bridgewater State University in special education. And he comes from us from Mary Hurd Academy in Maine, North Berwick, where he was a special education teacher at their alternative program. And he'll be working as an 8th grade case manager for us.
So we welcome Ben, Jess, and Raya. Unfortunately, one of my new hires is not here tonight. She moved from North Carolina last week. She and her family are actively looking for a house. So I think she's in the packet, but I'd like to introduce her next month if that would be okay. Thank you.
So she missed out on Florence.
She did.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to our Marston positions next. So I'd like to call up Michelle Mans. Michelle is our new occupational therapist who took the position, Sue Shea's position from retirement. Michelle is a New Hampshire certified occupational therapist with a bachelor's degree from Villanova in biology and psychology. She also holds a master's degree of occupational therapy from the Boston School of Occupational Therapy at Tufts University. She's completed her level 1 and 2 field work at the Lab Collaborative in Massachusetts, serving ages 3 to 22, and most recently she's worked for OT for Kids, providing pediatric OT services for children 18 to birth with a variety of different disabilities. So we're really excited to have Michelle a part of the special education team. Welcome, Michelle. We also hired an ESOL teacher. She is unable to be here tonight, so my hope is that we'll be able to introduce Corinne Troy next month at our meeting. All right, and then last position is a district-wide position. So Raymond Pillsbury, come on up. Raymond took the position of the position you approved when Mrs. Frawley retired, and allowed us to kind of open up and expand the special education school psychologist role into a counselor role so that we could kind of serve more students. So Mr. Pillsbury comes to us with a bachelor's degree from the University of Maine Farmington in writing. He started his career as a classroom teacher and quickly realized his passion was in counseling and social services. So he worked for some community-based agencies, and from there he received his master's degree in counseling from the University of New Hampshire. And he started his public school career in Rochester at the middle school as the 504 and support counselor. From there, he moved to Spalding High School, where he was there for 16 years, serving as the special education counselor, and most recently added the role of critical incident response coordinator. So we welcome Raymond. Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome, everybody. Great to see you. Board member updates, budget, Frank?
We have a scheduled meeting on September 18th, which I believe you will all be there, right?
Try to. Yes, feel free to. Go. Sorry.
Who's Tim?
Okay.
So, nothing until the 18th, which is next week.
Okay. Was that a Tuesday?
Our intent is just to give the budget committee, sort of encapsulate what we did this past year, and we always like to highlight what's happening and as we prepare for budget. It's usually about anywhere between a half an hour to an hour.
I don't think I can make it, but,
If you can.
okay. Andrea, wellness?
Wellness Committee meets this, next week on Wednesday, the 19th. So I'll give more of an update then.
From the School Boards Association, did everybody get a mailing that had a list of all of their offerings? I think the only one that's coming up soon is the Kidder Law Conference. I don't know if folks go to that. And then it gave the date for the Delegates Assembly in late January.
As a part of their membership arrangement this year, they prefer registration, so they have some sense of how many are coming, but there's no fees any longer for any of the School Boards Association programs for the membership category that we're in, so.
Okay, that's good. Well, we pay them some money,
We
so
pay them
that's,
some
yeah.
dollars in dues every year, and they're advancing this now as a benefit of
Great.
of our membership.
Seacoast Learning Collaborative, Frank?
I don't have anything unless Kathy has
No,
anything.
nothing still. It's very quiet.
Negotiations for the paras. Frank is our person.
Board rep? Perfect.
I think I'm the alternate.
Yes.
And you don't have anything to report on that yet? No. Pepper is not here for the rec department. Building committee, Andrea?
We have a meeting on the 19th at 4 o'clock. We had a great walkthrough last month. Things seem to be progressing beautifully. I just can't wait for the public to be able to walk through and see it. It's truly, truly an amazing building. And I think the community is going to absolutely love getting in there and having meetings and events and, yeah, so it's wonderful.
And curriculum?
Again, we don't have anything scheduled as of yet, but we are working on social studies, music, and
Art.
the arts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, just scheduled, a meeting with the librarian, so if you wanna, I'll send you the date on that.
Okay.
I just scheduled it with them.
Okay.
And so I'll be meeting with them throughout the year as they look at all of their national library standards.
Okay, just forward those dates to me and I'll try to be there.
And Pepper is not here for professional development. Was there anything
No,
particularly?
but we do have a meeting coming up, so
Okay.
she's aware of that, and it's this month. Just looking at the date here to see when we're meeting. I don't know, did I put it on the calendar? I guess not. But we have a meeting coming
Okay.
up this month.
And I have to talk to Pepper because you have the grading committee meetings on Monday, but I'm not able to make it on Mondays, so I'm hoping Pepper will be able to
Okay.
fill in on those Mondays.
Okay. Yeah, I did put the PD meeting in, it's on October 16th.
Okay.
Okay, so it's on your calendar.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Comcast committee?
Our first meeting is September 26th.
Okay. Okay, so those are the board committee reports. Jen, are you here for sort of PTA?
No.
No.
I mean, they haven't asked me to be here
Oh,
or
okay.
anything. I'm just here for myself.
Oh, well, good.
Information.
It's always good to see you. Was there
I
anything?
can share PTA stuff if there's anything you need
What?
me to share.
If there's anything coming up, feel free.
We just had a membership drive last night at the community oven, which was fantastic. And then we have a Halloween event coming, well, fall festival / Halloween event coming up at the end of October, which is turning out to be pretty awesome. We're hoping to get a few more things to get the middle school kids involved, possibly some like bungee inflatable type activities and such.
That'll work.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. We are looking for sponsors for some of our booths. If anybody has any businesses or anything we know of that would like to sponsor a booth, it's $25. And it's, you know, hang a banner or whatever. And then we have signs for each booth. So that's coming along. That's about all we have going on so far. Our first meeting's coming up the 18th, I believe.
And where would that be?
It's gonna be at the academy.
It'll be at the Hampton Academy Library, which is down the bottom basement floor where the old chorus room was.
We did have a question, are we entering through the
Yeah, you can enter
cafeteria
through that
doors
door,
there?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that's good. I see you here and I always think, geez,
I
we
will
should have.
gladly share PTA stuff when I
Great.
come. I just like the information
Great.
that you all share.
Okay, principals reports. We want to start with Tim? Did anyone have any questions on Tim's report?
I didn't have any questions, but I asked Mr. Lannon if he could just give us a brief overview of the new dyslexia law and their iReady computer-based assessment program.
Sure, that's very easy to do. We at Center School have moved from the STAR testing. Traditionally at Center School, we've had a national measure that we always like to measure how our students are doing nationally across multiple areas of math and reading. We've had NEWA in the past, we've had STAR in the past. Most recently, the STAR, we've had some little bit difficulties at my level especially, because it was broken down into two areas. It was broken down into early literacy, which was K and half of grade 1, and then they moved into the regular STAR test, which is halfway through first grade and on. So we weren't really getting any historical data that we felt that we could use to chronologically progress monitor throughout the years of their time at Center School leading up to third grade. A new rising program that many districts are using is iReady, and again, it's an adaptive computer assessment program. It's given 3 times a year. We give it in the fall, we give it in the winter, and we give it in the spring. Those are windows of testing when norms are set. And in kindergarten, however, we only do it in the winter and the spring. We want to get the young ones into school first and find out how to use adaptive equipment like computers and so forth. So they're not involved in that right away. But it gives us a customized reports. The reports are extremely detailed. They're individualized so that we can then set goals for each individual student and progress monitor. It's a great way to inform instruction. It's a no pressure. It's not like a test. They do 5 little questions and then they play a game. Then they do 5 more questions and then a little rocket ship goes by and they play it. So they have a good time with it. And it's built upon levels of difficulty upon how well the student is doing. So it adjusts, it adapts to how a student is doing. And you get a specific range of where that child is. So that's a great thing that we have in place. That's the iReady program. The dyslexia is a new law that was put into place January of 2018. It basically just defines what dyslexia is, because there's a lot of misnomers of what dyslexia is. And what dyslexia is difficulty in learning to read or interpret letters and symbols, but it does not affect the general intelligence whatsoever, reading and spelling. So what we're doing here is something, they want to make sure that all districts are have something in place to make sure that we're identifying students early enough with any type of reading-related disorders. The comfort there is we always do that anyway. So there's nothing new in place. What we use for screening tools adjusts and adapts through research, right? What's best research was practicing. And so we had the great opportunity to work with the, at no cost, the New Hampshire reading specialist. There's a state reading specialist. So she came in and did some professional development with us. And she had some great examples of what we could use to progress monitor for reading-related disorders, which we already do anyway. We already have one in place. She took a look at what we have and we adapted it. And it just kind of evolves of what we already have in place. So both of these initiatives are not add-ons. They're already something that's been in place anyway, traditionally. We're just staying current, is pretty much the bottom line. We're staying current to what's going on. And it's always incumbent upon us to follow new legislation when it's passed down to us. So we're on the ball at Center School is what the answer is.
We knew you were.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And again, around the pool, big thumbs up for Center.
Thank you so much. I
Kindergarten,
appreciate
first and second, all of them.
that. Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions on my report?
Tim, would you?
No, I just have a
Yep.
question on the SRO.
The SRO? Yep.
Yes,
In place.
Working out, or
She was, I didn't bring her with me this evening because she was introduced in the summertime. Shannon Feely, who's spending time, a majority of time at Center School, but also spending time at Marsden School. She's been a fabulous addition, Frank. She has integrated herself tremendously with the students. She sits with them, eats lunches with them, talks to them, gets to know them. We really enjoy having her. She's a kid person, which is great. So it's awesome at Center School to have that connection. They're just making a tremendous connection. I'm sorry.
How many children entered school without any preschool or early learning?
Not as many this year as last year, which was good. It's still a handful. I think we have about 7 right now, or 7
That's
or 8,
pretty
so
good.
it's not too bad. But it's still out there, and some of them have had limited experiences. But, so it's not as high as it was the previous year, where it was 8 or 9%, but right now it's not as high this year, so.
And everyone's doing well?
Everybody is doing well.
Good.
Yeah, the children have adjusted well, the teachers have adjusted. We're off and running. It's amazing. It feels like we never ended. Any further questions?
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Have a great day.
So we're going to just go out of order a little bit now, and turn it over to you, Nate.
May I, what I want to say is, I'm really sad to report to you, as we did in the packet, that I'm losing my clerk. The truth is, she's your clerk, but for all but the very beginning of our time here, Jane Cipher has been our school district clerk. Jane, if you want to come up for 30 seconds.
She does not look as sad as you do.
She doesn't look as sad. Every time I talk to her about it, she seems to have this smile about retiring and taking off. In your packet is a brief memo and relevant statutes. I won't go through all the details, but to say, I'll let you talk to it. She's leaving us, and so what we have is an opportunity tonight to say thank you and goodbye. But she'll send Shirley over, who is her deputy, and tonight I'd invite you to vote to place Shirley or appoint Shirley to be the acting clerk. She'll have to show up on the ballot for the remaining 2 years of the term in March. But your clerk is a really important part of managing, especially the election process each year. So I won't say any more, but introduce you to your clerk, who I am going to miss very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have a great opportunity to retire, and after 26 years in the New Hampshire retirement system, I'm taking that opportunity, and I'm moving to Florida. I've lived in New Hampshire all my life, so this is going to be a great adventure for me. I did speak with Shirley as soon as I told her that I was retiring. I said, okay, so there's 2 other thoughts for you to keep in mind besides town clerk. Would you be interested in filling my position as Hampton School District Clerk and Winnicott School District Clerk? And of course, she was very interested. It just makes sense to have the town clerk, both of those clerks as well. It just, the flow is just so much easier. I've been on the receiving end of being a town clerk and having 2 different school district clerks. It truly makes more sense this way. So with your approval, that would be, I think, a great decision on your part. I will miss working with all of you. It's been a great pleasure to work with all of you and work for you. And I won't necessarily miss the work, but I will miss the people, for sure. Most of you. Most of the people.
So a question, Mr. Lunny, do we have to have a motion to accept her resignation? Not like, it's not like you're not gonna go if we don't.
I didn't see in statute any need to accept her retirement or her resignation from the position.
Okay.
Although,
You might want to acknowledge it.
she doesn't, she didn't put it in writing. You certainly could do that. The more specific thing is, a vacancy, once recognized by the board, can be filled by the board. And so,
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we accept her resignation with regret.
Second.
Any discussion? None? All those in favor?
effective 28 September.
Yes. All those in favor? Aye. And thank you, Jane. And so now, effective 28, we should make a motion to accept Shirley.
And I think,
She's
She's gonna
when
come
I
over
go
and
back
join
to
us
the
as
election,
well.
we have a little thing called an election happening.
Yes, I know.
So I had to sneak away real quick. But when I get back, Shirley will come back over.
Okay, then we'll wait until she gets here.
I didn't think we were gonna be able to steal Jane away from the election. Otherwise, there would have been cake and balloons and some confetti would have fallen already. And I apologize that I didn't.
I'm thankful for that.
I thought as much. So, yeah, Shirley will be over and we can do that with the rest then.
Okay.
Jane, how was voting today?
Busy,
Was
very
it
busy.
good?
Yeah, good luck, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Dustin, I said hi, I will. Is he gonna come to Florida and visit you?
I'm not quite sure. He has to get leave for that.
Oh.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks.
Okay. Where were we? Marston School. You gonna do Marston? Someone gonna do Marston? Okay. Well, does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
I can only tell you that Marston is engaged in a team-building activity, so they are all, because they had an opportunity to get tickets for tonight's Red Sox game.
Oh, good for
About
them.
30 of them, or 35 of them, are out in the bleachers at the Red Sox game. So they deserve it, and
Good for them.
I could
kudos
do
to
a really
them.
good impression, but I'd probably pay for it later, wouldn't I?
If you did Lois?
Yeah.
I don't think so, they do.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, that you can just contact Lois.
But on her,
And I can answer any
yeah, on her
questions.
events, I just did want to say,
At the game and tell her to get back.
Yeah.
on her events, I'd like to also give a shout out to the food service workers. Tuesday, September 25th is National Food Service Workers Day, and sometimes they go a little unnoticed, although we try really hard not to, but shout out to them. And Marston's curriculum night is on Monday, September 24th, so hope people will make sure to go for that.
And yeah, I would love to echo, food service workers just do so much. Jane didn't mention it, but when I stopped at the polls before the meeting to double check whether Jane and Shirley could join us, the first words out of their mouths both was, "Oh my, the turkey dinner that they just put on upstairs is delish." So
Yeah.
they really go above and beyond, and we appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yep, we do.
Okay, moving on. Hampton Academy, Dave. Does anybody have any questions first for Mr. O'Connor? Frank? Ginny? Andrea?
One quick one. I know, you want to roll your eyes at me, don't you? The reading and math screening, where were those held? Because those were on some particularly hot days. And my big concern was that the kids were taking these initial screening
It was
tests.
the sixth through the, basically, 6, 7, 8. And we did add some extra days to it because we're actually still testing kids this week.
Okay,
We didn't push it, it was hot everywhere, but.
right, but I just
We did
didn't want
just
that
finish.
heat to kind of affect their
No.
baseline.
Yeah, it's obviously, we want to assess what they know, not what kind of attrition they can
Right.
withstand.
Okay,
But it really wasn't that bad. We tried to get everything done early in the morning if we could.
okay, great.
And just while we're talking about that, a shout out to the PTA for what they did during
Absolutely.
Yeah.
the heat, with the freeze pops and the other things.
Thank you. Yeah, I reiterate. That was-
Anybody else have any questions for Dave? Anything you want to highlight?
Well, Tim was talking about iReady, and we're actually going to pilot iReady as well, but a much smaller version of it. We got 50 licenses, and we're gonna use that as not only a universal screening, but it also comes with a curriculum component to it. So after it assesses, it kind of gives the kids some activities or some practices or some challenge. So we got 50 licenses, 50 for math and 50 for reading, and we're going to try to use that as part of our RTI program. We'll let you know how that goes.
Excellent.
Anything else?
I got a brand new club, starts next Monday. It's a robotics club.
Nice.
Mrs. Burke.
Nice.
In fact, we just finalized that today, and I hadn't even had a chance to share that with the superintendent, but we're very excited. And actually, the kids asked for it because they want to bring their robots into school. So I'm really excited about that.
Now, may they participate in like Kentucky and stuff where they have national robotics day?
They have it right here in the state of New Hampshire as well.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I know they have a nationals in Kentucky.
We'll be glad to go to Nashville. Well, that's Tennessee.
That's Tennessee, but close to Kentucky.
It's just over the border, though.
Right.
We could drive there.
Yeah, that's it.
Dave, sorry, just before you
Oh,
go.
sorry.
Quick overview of environmental camp. We have it in our
Yeah, I
packet.
put the summary there. It's actually $4 less expensive than last year.
Okay.
It was $196 last year, so it's $192 per student.
Okay.
The charges on there are what we pretty much present every year. Transportation's gone up again, and you can see we have nursing services in there as well. So we can have a 24/7.
Do they provide the nurse?
They do not. That's why that
Oh.
cost is there. We have to cover that. There's not a lot of camps that are doing that anymore, particularly off-season.
Okay.
If it was the middle of the summer, they all have camp nurses, but because we're just on the end of the season, we have to bring our own. And I actually like that idea because they know the kids, and they work very closely with us, so we know who the nurse is.
So do you bring your nurse and then get a substitute
We actually get a
nurse?
sub-nurse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And it looks like just about all of your stipend positions have pretty much
Yeah,
spoken
we just
for.
filled the field hockey position, and we're just waiting for a background check to come through, but her last name is Nudd. Not
Local
Sheila.
name?
Sheila is not coaching, but the woman's last name is
sorry.
Nudd.
Hey, I don't see the robotics person on it.
Well, you know what, we'll do that as part of our after-school activities.
Okay, so they won't get a stipend.
Yeah, last year we had a huge turnout. We had a great volleyball team this year, but we actually had a position for an assistant coach, which we're not gonna fill.
Okay.
So, if that's a possibility. But she's actually doing it as a volunteer position, yeah. She wants to try it out, see if she can get kids interested, and then we'll move forward with a proposal.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. All set.
Jess?
Hi again.
Hello.
Any questions? I added a new piece on the bottom, just to kind of give you an idea of kind of the move-in. Piece of that kind of helps with when you look back at the numbers, the increase or the decrease.
How's staffing in the sixth grade? Dealing with parents and stuff?
We're working through it. We've had some students come in and out, so we've had to make some adjustments with paraprofessionals, but talking with Kathleen, we have someone that we're moving into that position tomorrow. Yeah. So that we'll be all 28 paraprofessional positions will be filled. Yep.
Any other questions for Jess? Thank you.
Thanks.
Janine.
Yeah, I'll go back.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to you, Janine, after Greg. Greg?
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Great, thank you. Any questions for my report?
I would just say that typically the start of a school year is very busy for you.
Extremely busy. And every year it's getting busier and busier. Usually it starts to slow down by now, but it hasn't. So, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Who does the web page for the district?
It's shared amongst my staff. Usually Dave and I do most of it.
Oh, okay, I was just curious.
Now, first and second grade doesn't have one-on-one Chromebooks yet, right?
No, they do not.
What do they have?
They have about 2 to 1.
2 to 1?
But we put about 10 in every classroom.
Okay.
Do they need Chromebooks?
My impression right now is that this was kind of a pilot, and it seems to be working for now. The discussion as part of my goals is to look at any further needs for at the center school. We have a talk about tablets at kindergarten, and we'll look at trying to budget that in for next year and getting them some tablets at the kindergarten age. I showed them, it's actually a Chromebook tablet. It's the first of its kind. It's just like a Chromebook without a keyboard, and they really liked it. It has a stylus on it as well, so they can write stuff.
When's that coming out, Greg?
It's out. It took me like 3 or 4 months just to get one. So when we budget that in, I will hopefully get that in soon enough so that we have it in time for the beginning of the next year. But they're about $350 a piece, and if you were talking about, they're looking at maybe 8 per classroom, so we're about 56 of those devices works out to be almost $20,000. So. They're made by, I'm not sure where they're coming from, but they're Acer Chromebooks, similar to the ones that teachers also have Acer as well.
Anything else from Mr. Limperis? Thank you.
Thank you.
Janine? So you have Janine's report. Any questions for her?
Well, I'd like to give you kudos, first of all, for this format and the report, really well done. Makes it very clear, easy to read. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I like it too.
Good, thank you.
Makes it easy. Anything you want to highlight?
Thank you for Haley's position. The child and family interventionist is such a blessing for the counselors and myself. She's staying very busy. We've already had her doing zones of regulation in the classroom. Along with one of the case managers in kindergarten, she's kind of piloting the program in every kindergarten class. They have a schedule all set. She's met with all the counselors to do comprehensive guidance instruction. She's met with me and families. It's great. Yeah,
Good.
we're really fortunate. Thank you.
Is there
Okay.
anything more that we can do to?
We're going to talk about attendance in a few minutes, and we can chat about it then.
Right.
Where do parents go if they need help? Because right now, Head Start wasn't open, HCC isn't open. Where do families go if they need help with state forms or that type of thing?
A few families have contacted me directly.
Okay.
And I've helped them. Families First has reached out that families have gone there to help.
Okay.
So we really need to get through one more week, and then HCC is open again in terms of having a location and volunteers. But they'll let me use their site at any time if I need to go and meet with a family, and other offices are occupied.
Okay, so if somebody's having a problem with paperwork, they should contact you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's K through 8?
Pre-K through 8.
Pre-K through
Yeah.
8. If they're enrolled in, or the special needs preschool, right? Or can you do any pre-K family?
I think I would help any pre-K family that
Okay.
was in Hampton.
Okay. Hampton pre-K?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or at least send them in the right direction. I don't normally just say no.
okay.
And while we have you there, the attendance, were you going to talk about that?
I have a little presentation coming.
Let's do that now.
Okay.
Well, she's setting up. Today, I was notified that New Hampshire is applying for a preschool grant. And they asked me to serve on the committee to develop that grant statewide. So it's the very first grant. New Hampshire has never received any federal monies for preschool. And so I will join this committee and share the needs that we have for preschoolers. So I'll keep you posted on that. Just came out today.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
If it comes to fruition.
Well, you know what? We haven't received any money, so there's a great deal of optimism that that will happen. And when we were working on children's behavioral health, and we put together a plan, then we got lots of money. Once the plan was together, the feds responded in a favorable light. I think once we have the plan together for preschool, and we do have that, I think this grant will be looked at much more favorably. So, got my fingers crossed, because we really could use some help with preschool. You know, even, I know Tim said it was only 7 or 8 families that perhaps they didn't, but then again, what kind of, you know, some of them may not have had the kind of preschool experience that other children have had. So we're just trying to level that playing field.
Is it gonna go up there?
Okay, hopefully we can get it on all 3 screens.
Do you see it on any?
Not seeing anything there. We did a few minutes ago.
This resource list, this is on our website.
It has not been uploaded to the website yet.
It will be.
It will be.
Okay, all right,
So-
that's probably a good idea.
Well, Shirley.
Yeah,
But while we're waiting to, we're gonna, hi Shirley.
Shirley, come right up to the mic. Folks, we talked a few minutes ago when Jane was here. We wished her well and thanked her very much, and they accepted her resignation boldly, right then and there, because they knew you were coming. I talked to Shirley briefly this morning, this evening at the polls, and she said she was familiar with everybody on the board, and so we go back to that previous conversation. This is Shirley Doheny, who we'd like to make our acting school district clerk until the election comes up, and she'll stand for the election in March.
So I would make a motion
I'll second it.
that we, do we elect or
Appoint.
appoint
Yes, sir.
Shirley as our school district clerk.
I'll second it.
Seconded Frank. Any discussion? None. All those in favor? Welcome aboard, Shirley.
Well, thank you very much.
We're fortunate to have you.
Is this class of 71 gets together here?
I was with the town for 19 years.
19 years?
I think so.
The town clerk's office
It is.
for
Yeah.
11.
Wow.
I've lived in town for over 50.
Absolutely.
We're not supposed to say that, 25.
We talked, Jane reminded us just how valuable it is to have the clerk serve in all 3 roles.
You should be able to say
And,
percent, it goes
And
to-
so we're glad that as deputy, you're already in position in the town side to take over. We're glad that you'll be helping us as well. And this will be the last time that we drag you in here and ask you anything special. How's that?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your vote. I'll be happy to see you.
Thank you for coming over.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay.
Doesn't seem to be loading.
How's everyone?
Great, and you?
Good, good, good. Good. Fall's going well? Someone good?
What high school?
Were you the same class?
Yeah.
You and Shirley?
Yes.
That's what I said, class of
With Alan.
71.
Yeah, with Alan.
And Alan.
Great class.
Everybody your age.
Great class.
Did it show up on the TV in front of you?
No,
It's
it's a
not.
blank screen.
No, before, did it?
Something did.
Yes,
Yeah,
it did.
turned up
It
here.
did, actually. That didn't, but I think it was down here.
Because I mean, if you put on mirroring, it should show it on this and the other ones, and it's not coming up.
I just
Yeah,
want
you
them to
take
be
off-
able to see it there.
Yeah, I can't, I gotta check with the guys in there, but.
So around the pool, I've heard good things about the
Marston.
start at Marston.
Oh, well, that's good.
We
to
just
know.
don't have as many Marston. We have more center kids, but
Right,
lots of thumbs up.
I
right.
think the guys.
That's
See if
good.
it's going to present.
Now do you see
Brian
it?
might be able to.
Yeah, see if Brian can help.
No? No? Wow.
You're not in attendance tonight.
Yeah. What's that?
You're not in attendance tonight.
We're just gonna skip on out of here.
How come you didn't get to go to the Red Sox?
It was, yeah, it was down.
It was an opportunity for me,
Down low.
but, I've done it many years, and it was a Tuesday night. It was
Tuesdays are
like-
tough.
Just as long as you don't say you're a fan of some other team.
Oh, no.
Okay, good job.
No. And we had
It moved
to,
off the screen now.
we had to commit to it
Yeah.
last spring.
Oh, okay.
Unplug it?
Why are you FaceTiming?
Oh, I didn't watch that.
And I didn't know what to expect come September 11th.
I understand.
Is that a hoop?
Yeah, there's no way else to plug it into HDMI. without an
Well, you guys
adapter.
just might miss my spreadsheets.
Try turning off mirroring again.
It worked last time when we just plugged in.
See. Yeah, the different setup, they didn't have all these.
Well, while we're doing that,
Keep going.
okay,
Now mirroring is on.
we'll have the superintendent's report, and when you're ready, we'll stop her and,
Or we'll reschedule.
yeah.
Or you can just make your presentation. Can you do that presentation without the,
I can give you numbers, you just won't have the visuals.
Right.
You wanna do that?
right.
Sure.
Okay.
Why don't I do mine, try that, and we'll go. Okay, so you all have my report, so I'll just highlight a couple of areas that I want to let you know about. Title IV. Remember I applied for a grant for the science position, and we were turned down. I applied, and also a team from Marston applied for the money. Neither of us got the grant. We were disappointed. And the Title IV money was federal money, newly appropriated out of Washington, and the Department of Ed decided to make it competitive. And I understand why they do that, since I did it when I was at the department, but I didn't feel that it was fair because of the types of projects that were requested. I asked them to reconsider and just make it, take the money, divide it up according to whatever your needs are in your districts. The bottom line is districts got $10,000, but other districts got more money, and we got $22,000. So with your permission, I'd like to be able to fund the Marston project first. It was about $10,000, and it was a scientist in residence, and the integrated arts team did that. Allison Griffin and the computer ed teacher. I thought it was really a neat little project. I would like to be able to fund them first with the 22, and the remainder of it to offset some of the costs for our science coach. So if you're okay with that, I would like to move ahead with that. We have been assured of the 22,000. We are getting it, so.
So what is a scientist in residence?
So they'll have, he'll come in, he or she will come in, do activities with the youngsters, all based on their standards, all the competencies that we have developed in grades 3, 4, and 5. So the kids are really excited. You know, and they do a lot of STEM activities, integrating art and music and physical education and library and computer ed. So they've done a lot of work on it. It's been terrific. Kids love it. So they'd like to continue to do that, so.
So does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay, move by Ginny, that,
We take the $22,000, fund Marston first, and the remaining funds will go for our science person.
middle school.
You only need 10 from Marston, though.
I need 10 from Marston and the rest of
10.
it.
10 from Marston.
And that's Title IV funds.
Okay, now just $22,000 in Title IV funds.
Would be distributed 10,000 to Marston, and the remainder to,
For the science consultant position.
Hampton.
Can we just put a, I don't want to interrupt your thing, but can we put a caveat on that, make sure, subject to getting the grant?
We already have received that
Okay,
assurance,
we've
yeah,
got it.
oh, yeah, I would, yeah.
I just know the state sometimes.
Yeah, no, this is our, we've already received it, and I'm actually already start working on you have to provide program assurances, so I started doing that.
All right, it was moved by Ginny. Was it seconded Frank?
Just a minute, I've got here $22,000 to Marston or
No,
$10,000?
ten.
10 to
10,000
Marston.
to Marston, 12 to.
And 12 for the science coach. Okay? If, you know what, when you send it in, I'll check it over.
Again, you try mine.
I
Wanna
can
try
really
plug
just,
mine in?
I can,
Okay.
we could just talk.
However you
and
want,
then,
be okay.
I could email you out the charts
Yeah.
so you could see,
Let us take this vote first.
Yep. Jenny and seconded by
Frank.
Frank.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Something else that I would, in my report on page 30, that I would like you to consider, and that is to address some math needs in the district. We have a very talented group of sixth graders that have really demonstrated above average, high average achievement in mathematics. And in most cases, we would say they were proficient with distinction, as you know, when we look at the state assessment scores. We also have an algebra class at 8th grade that's grown to 27, which, in my opinion, is too large. Now, that doesn't reflect at all on the teacher. The teacher is a very talented math teacher, please. And she is always willing to step up and do whatever she can. But honestly, I know how you feel about class size. You've been very clear with me about what your expectations were. So I'm recommending tonight, I'd ask for your consideration tonight, to hire a part-time math teacher to address those two needs, to provide a daily instruction for that sixth grade group, which, by the way, will be seventh graders next year with the same issue, and to address that 8th grade algebra class and breaking it up into two sections.
So a motion to add a part-time math teacher to address the needs of the 6th and 7th grade math students.
I'll second that. It's about time we started doing more things for the enrichment programs and enriched students.
You will not have an argument from anyone, and the administrators feel the same way, so.
It's exciting.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have a couple of questions regarding, not opposed to,
Yes.
how many hours are we looking at? Are we looking to hire a part-time retiree because of the new law on?
Well, I won't tell you that
Number of hours.
it's been a challenge to find a position. Dave has been over and above searching. I have a call into the university, to the math department. Nathan's reposted. We have received some applications. I am looking for someone who has a background in mathematics. I mean, when you're doing algebra and advanced math, you have to have a very good understanding. So it's been a challenge. Today, just recently, Dave got another application of a certified math teacher. So we're in the process of hiring. I don't believe it's going to be a retiree. We've not had any luck in that.
I'm just asking the question because
But we have
of
to
that
be
law.
careful of the
Yeah,
retirement.
yeah.
We anticipate 3 periods, 2 periods of instruction and 1 period for planning. And so it would be three sections of the day, so it would be a 3-hour day, and at 5 days a week, 15 hours. So I think if we did have a retiree, we would be under the 20
generally,
hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was my only.
No,
concern.
that's a great, we did think about that.
And if someone was listening and might be interested and had a math background, who should they contact? Dave?
They should contact Dave,
Okay.
or my office, either one. Dave and
Okay.
I are working together on it.
When we talk math background, we want an emphasis on algebra.
We want an emphasis on mathematics. It could be algebra, it could be geometry. I see a lot of calculus so they just have a very deep understanding of mathematics, and I believe that's where we are for these youngsters. So, we
Do we
good?
want to stop you and go to them?
We have to
Sure.
take
No,
the
let's
vote.
take the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, we did not vote. All those in favor? Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's extraordinary.
Now we can go.
I wonder what happened.
All yours.
So, we, last year, instituted a new attendance protocol. We piloted a new attendance plan as to how we were going to help curb some chronic absentee issues. And so we're gonna kind of recap what that policy was in the beginning of the year, how it folded out throughout the school, and how we are kind of reframing it this year to make it more effective, kind of what worked and what didn't. So evidence shows that the more relationships you build with families, and that positive early attendance habits will create better students. Academically, emotionally, they'll be more invested in school, feel a stronger part of their school environment, and be more connected. So by grade 6, chronic absenteeism is an indicator of dropout. So we're really trying to be proactive and start good, healthy attendance habits in kindergarten.
So we looked at a variety of models that Janine and I spent some time looking at that. And so what we decided to do for last school year was we followed a protocol. And this was introduced to all staff members because it wasn't isolated to Janine or the school counselors that were involved in it. We wanted to be very collaborative and comprehensive. So what we decided is if any one student had 3 consecutive absenteeisms, then the classroom teacher would make a phone call home. This was also based on some of the information we received from the My Voice survey as well that had been administered, where kids were saying, am I noticed when I'm not there? So the teachers would make that first phone call, but it would be 3 consecutive absences. If any time there's 5 absences, not necessarily consecutive, but any time we hit a 5-day absent mark, a postcard goes home to the family. And it's a very kind of friendly, we sort of noticed this, the importance of coming to school. If it continues and we meet a 10-day, a letter goes home and we request a meeting for the parent or parents, guardians to come in, because we have to look at what barriers are causing the absence. And we don't want to make any kind of assumptions, and we want to be able to help the adults. And again, looking at it developmentally appropriate, when we're looking at the very young ages, obviously the adults are held responsible for getting the kids to school. But as it moves up, you know, so do they need an alarm clock? Do they need some help with transportation? Is the child not feeling comfortable and safe in school? So it allows that opportunity. And then if the absence continues, we do it more and more as the meetings start happening. But we just wanted to warrant that each time we decide this, there's a collaborative team that's looking at it, because we have to determine excused, unexcused absence, and we decide on an individual basis who we're going to be calling in, because we may know something already. So that's what we kind of followed this year.
We followed a it's Attendance Works campaign. It's a national campaign about attendance awareness and being ready to come to school and barriers. They carry a lot of statistics about kids that don't come to school and how they're less likely to be at grade level by 3rd grade if they're chronically absent. So we modeled a lot of their family engagement and community engagement through their website. It's attendanceworks.org. And the other piece is that when we are looking at a chronically absent child, especially when they're crossing, you know, we've had them for a number of years and we're seeing a trend, often DCYF is going to be involved in some respects. And this protocol really follows every single check mark that they are looking for in a truancy checklist. We don't really call it truancy when they're 2nd graders. But it follows a protocol so that we know that we've taken the proper steps to really try to engage the family and make it a partnership, so that they understand that school's not we're not coming to your house to try to, you know, get your kid to come to school. There are really reasons and statistics behind why it is healthy for the child to come to school every day on time. And then, as Sue said, as the absences keep increasing. We do it on a case-by-case basis, and we would continue to have the family in, and then kind of take the steps necessary after that. Go ahead.
And I think it just goes back to that relationship building, because I think if we're able to be very proactive and we're coming across with more of, like even for myself, I may be calling and saying, I'm curious, is there something going on that I can be helping with? So it's not a negative, it's more of, let us help you, or let us help your child, or are we missing something? Are we missing something and that we could be doing differently here at school, so.
And we worked collaboratively with the principals to create a letter that was not punitive in nature, like, you know, the traditional attendance letters that you get, like, RSA says that you should be. So we were really, we wanted to be very thoughtful and mindful that getting a letter from the school for a family that hasn't had a great experience with the school might be difficult, and we really wanted to engage them. We didn't want to make them stand off more. So the next few slides were statistics about how many days students were absent in each school. And the only thing I think I can kind of narrate is that we've tracked, or I pulled data from the 3 years that we had Power School information, and kind of tracked the kids that had been chronically absent. So there were 2 kids at Center School that were there last year, 16-17 and 17-18, that kind of blipped as chronically absent. So we know which kids to kind of focus on this year, because they were with us for kindergarten. And the same thing with Marston School. There were 3 kids that were kind of chronically absent each year, almost missing 20 or more days.
And their excuses last year were?
Often it's they don't feel well.
They don't feel well.
Yeah.
Kind of spreads through the house.
Yeah. So, and having that discussion with parents is we really wanted to find the difference between the psychosomatic complaints and the real illness, and how can we empower parents to make the decision, like, well, maybe we should just send them to school and the nurse can take their temperature, and if they don't have a fever, they can stay. But really kind of creating that partnership so that we can have the discussion with the parent that even if they're saying they don't feel well, I know it's hard as a parent, still send them to school because we really don't believe that they're truly ill. So it kind of opened up that dialogue. At Hampton Academy, we had kind of a different data point that I thought was interesting. We had 2 kids that were chronically absent the 3 years that they were at the academy, but we also had 4 children that had very good attendance in 15 and 16, 16 and 17, and then really spiked. So I thought that was an interesting data point, that those are the 4 kids that something happened in their lives in 8th grade that made them miss that much school. We have 1 kid that missed 7 days, and then 37 days. So what made it increase by 30 days? And kind of that partnership with the families, figuring out what was the barrier to coming to school. So those are some interesting data points that I will send you via email.
And what we had to do is take a look at what we had from last year and identify the strengths, what really worked. And I think most importantly was the open communication. There was a communication with the administrators, the teachers, the school counselors, Janine's position, as well as with the parents. And I think that was really, really important, because it did send that message of, we really care, we want your children here, and we notice when they're not here. So let's work together at it. And
I want to just interject for a second. And it was interesting that I was having conversations about students that have never been on my caseload. You know, some people think that just chronically absent students would naturally be on my caseload, and they weren't kids that I would even recognize. I didn't know their names, I didn't know their family dynamics. So it really kind of opened the communication, like, oh, there might be more to this story, that I haven't met this student yet. So I thought that was interesting.
And I think the other thing that worked was that the parents recognized that we are now taking that next step, and that we're taking attendance serious, and it's not necessarily just calling in the child and saying, well, they're just not feeling well. And I think the other piece too is that we're trying to get that personalization in, because last year with the sort of what I call it the robocall, when a kid is absent with the whole thing with Power School, there's a robocall that's made if the parent hasn't called. So we're trying to instill some of that personalization as well. And I think the other thing we had to keep in mind which I did, and I used to share it with the team, was what was these parents' experiences in school? You know, I can't be asking them how chronically they were absent, but they might not have had a really good experience, so it was also bridging that gap as well. And the teachers felt more involved as well, because it started with them. Because sometimes they really didn't know why their kids were out. The kids would come in and say, well, I just wasn't feeling good, but it created another level, and it created a level with the parents that they were trying to help, not, you know, say, well, this is all your missing work, so now you have to do that. So I thought that worked really well. What didn't was discerning the reasons of absence, what's excused and what's not excused, and being able to, you know, really get to the bottom of it, because it is up to the parents across the board as to how they call in their students, and we're not going to argue that piece. Kindergarten is not mandatory, so that was another piece, you know, that accountability. Sort of that inconsistent implementation, it was, we kind of had a handhold at times, like, it's going to be okay, give them the call. After those 3 consecutive, what I really appreciated was teachers were coming to me and saying, it's been 3 days, I'm gonna call now, all right? Yep, that's what you need to do. You know, is it okay if I call, you know, do I call both parents? Is it something in the family that I'm not aware of? So it really opened up the communications with the school counselors as well, but there was still somewhat of that inconsistency and uncertainty there. Having the families come in was pretty time consuming. It was difficult because we had to get the teachers to come into the meetings as well. We would have it all set up, and sometimes the parents didn't show up, or there was miscommunication. So we have to figure out a more streamlined kind of piece. And the postcards, the letters, a lot
Very
of labor.
labored.
You know, that was a lot, because you wanted it timely. So those 5 days could be happening at any particular time. So 1 week you could have had 3, and another week none, and then the week after that 15. So it really, those were the things that did not work well.
What did you find were the reasons that kids weren't showing up to school?
At the middle school level, I would say a lot of it is mental health concerns that are exhibited in different ways. Stomach aches, headaches, throwing up, appointments that we don't ever really have documentation whether they're attending appointments, but the parent will keep them out for the entire day. At the younger levels, it's mostly my child doesn't feel well. We do have a couple vacations.
Vacations
Yes.
will be sometimes. The child doesn't feel well. I didn't wake up on time, or we don't have transportation sometimes.
And and we were assuming that the transportation piece was going to be a big factor, so we were ready to go pick up kids. And it happened less than we thought it would. It was really more the, well, he says he has a sore throat, so I'm not sending him today. So looking at what didn't work well last year and how we can improve, so the letter that is in, behind my report, so we talked with the principals about creating a letter, not from a school specifically, but rather from the district level, explaining the protocol to parents, why it's important, and then giving them some happy, colorful statistics. So that letter, if it's okay with you guys, would go home to all families in the district. We would send it out electronically and then post it on the website. So hopefully when they do receive the note cards or the letters, it won't be a complete shock to them that we have this attendance protocol and that we're tracking that their students are absent. It really gave us the opportunity to increase the consultation with the counselors, and the counselors have some ownership in these kids that they receive their daily bulletins every day. And for me to track all 3 schools became pretty cumbersome because I didn't know the kids as directly and intimately as they did. So as as I meet with each counselor, which I do every week, one of our talking points is always the kids that are chronically absent. So, and how do we manage that caseload together so that we can share the work. And then also looking deeper into the data, now that we have the assessment data, I can pull out the kids that are substantially below proficient and see if we can find some correlations between chronically absent students and the students that are not achieving well. And then also cross-reference that with my homeless and highly mobile list and outreach list and see how many cross-variations we have between all of those kids. And finally, bringing more team members together. The nurses play a huge part in this, and how many nurse visits when the kids are actually present in school. We can see if that's correlating with the times that they're also out. And then how do we, really, they can be our help, and how do we discern what is an excused absence versus, a medically excused absence versus not. And then having them come with us to the family meetings, especially if it is one of those families that is always calling their kids out sick, and how we can bridge the gap with the nurses. And, you know, they are in good medical care when they're at school. So if you are concerned, you can have them come into school and the nurses can take care of them too. So that's what the presentation was going to be. Do you guys have any questions about how it's working, or?
So if I understand you correctly, everyone's getting this letter in the next week or so, or they already have it?
No.
They do not have it
They
yet.
don't
I
have it.
wanted you guys to see a draft first
Yeah.
before
Okay.
it was sent out.
All right.
So if it looks okay, it would go out this week.
And how are you
Electronically.
handling medical situations? For example, we're going into the flu season, somebody gets a severe case of the flu. You're usually out 5, 6, 7 days. How are you gonna handle that situation?
Well, and it happened last year too. So we did it really more on a case-by-case basis. The parents that called and the student and said, you know, they are tremendously sick, I cannot bring them, I don't want to spread these germs, we're going to go to the doctor. A lot of parents do provide us with documentation, that, especially around the flu, like if they actually did have a documented flu, they give us the proper paperwork.
And we also have to be respectful of the policy that we have. If a child has a fever, they have to be fever-free for 24 hours. So we don't, you know, we have to make sure our messages are really clear, like, whoop, no, come in, because, you know, and I think that's the really important point, is that it's really individual. It's not like, you know, you met that mark, next thing, we do. And I think,
No, so
that- I
it's
think
flexible. What
it
I'm
is
saying,
flexible.
It's not going to be,
and, you know,
you've been out 5 days, okay, and the child's sick, still sick at home
right.
Right.
with the flu or whatever.
And that's why the partnership with the nurses will be really important, because they can directly speak with the parent when there are medical concerns in place. And unless I asked, we wouldn't know that. So if we have that kind of dialogue all the time, hopefully it would break down some of the confusion as to why they weren't there.
But I think the next step, though, is what we're able to do is then in speaking with the parents, still recognizing that they might have been out X amount of days due to the illness, but we at the school are gonna be able to do this to help them transition back into school. So there's still that piece.
Well, I just don't want it to come across that we're trying to overstep our boundaries with parents.
No.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't
They'll
use
let us
common
know.
sense
Yeah.
in administering this, you're gonna hear about it, and ultimately, we'll probably hear about it, so, I'm sure you would.
How many chronically ill children do we have here in Hampton, in the school system?
It's hard to say.
Not sure how do you define chronically ill?
Chronic cancer,
Oh.
MS,
Oh.
I don't have that information.
Cystic fibrosis.
cystic fibrosis, anything like that.
Well, you know what, we have a total of 48 youngsters as of September 1st that are on individual health care plans. Now, I don't want you to think that that number is, relates to somebody who's has a chronic illness. Some of it is asthma and diabetes. It does vary, but we have 48 youngsters on individual health care plans.
Well, I'd say if we only have 5, 7 that are chronically absent, then I think those ones on individual health plans are doing pretty well. if they're even mixed.
They are.
Yeah.
You should know, I mean, I know that they're talking about an attendance program here, and if you were sitting back thinking, oh my goodness, Hampton must have an attendance problem, well, you need to look at the statistics. Our average daily attendance, as reported to the Department of Ed every year, is above the state average and is around 96%. So for the most part, our kids are in school every day. What Janine and Sue referred to tonight were really a small percentage of youngsters who have had issues around attendance. And we're
Chances-
talking about less than 5%.
The chances are those are the struggling learners.
Well, that's the relationship.
And that, yeah, that's the data that I want to look at and see how.
Can you make a generalization? Because Mrs. Shepherd brought this up in the spring, and her question was, this whole program, can you make a generalization at this point as to whether you've had an impact on attendance? Has this improved student attendance by bringing the awareness to everybody? Did I capture your question right,
Oh,
Andrea?
absolutely, yeah.
Well, what was the average daily attendance last spring, and in another month, what is it? That'll give you a pretty
I don't
good
have it
idea.
yet. We don't
Yeah,
have that
right.
statistic yet
That's
from
right.
the.
But that'll
yeah.
give you a pretty good
I
idea.
have two kind of anecdotal thoughts. First, Marston was the school that really, with absolute fidelity, did this policy, this protocol. And they did have the lowest number of kids missing 5 days, missing 10 days, missing 20 days. Now, that's a little bit different. I mean, we have kids in the middle school that it's school refusal, it's not parent, neglect. And at center school, we have kindergarten, and that's not mandatory, so we had to make those tough calls. Do you send a letter to the kindergartners? And that kind of skews their data. So I do think that it made a difference at Marston when we did it with fidelity. Now, I also think that a greater change is that the parents took it seriously. And I think Mr. Landon can speak to this, that when a family got a letter, the mom came right in. She could not wait for her meeting date. She just had to talk to him right away because she was so concerned that she got an attendance letter from school and wanted to explain exactly why her daughter was out. So I think that it's opening the dialogue. The families are taking it seriously. Of course, there are going to be those outliers where the families just, crumple it up and throw it away and they don't show up for a meeting, but those are kind of the barriers that we're trying to break down.
But I think we also have to realize that if a parent or child feels kindergarten isn't mandatory, it's a privilege. And it's a privilege that some communities don't have.
Mhm.
So if you don't want the privilege, don't go all year. Because when you pick and choose when you go, then you bring down the average of that classroom's ability to do their work, and takes the teachers an inordinate amount of time to bring that child back up.
Yeah.
So do us all a favor and keep them out the year and start in first grade. But, I really feel strongly about that. It is a privilege to have kindergarten, all-day kindergarten in Hampton.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience as we get this.
Yeah, technology glitches.
Okay.
We going back to Kathleen's report, or did?
Well, before I forget, I think we have a candidate nomination.
Right, let me go to my page where that is.
I'm afraid we might forget it.
I'm just going to it. What page is that on?
Is
Oh.
that 36, 38?
Yep, okay, I have it. So we have two candidates tonight that I'd like to present to you. The first being Mrs. Karen Geis. Karen is I would like to recommend her for the math interventionist position for grades 6, 7, and 8 at Hampton Academy. Dave will bring Karen to us next week for introductions, our next board meeting in October. But I would recommend that you elect Karen for the math interventionist position.
Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Moved by Frank, seconded by Ginny. For approval, any discussion? All those in favor? 400.
The second position is filling a vacancy that occurred over the summer with the English Speakers of Other Languages, ESOL. I'm pleased to nominate Karen Troy for the position. Her position will be at Marston School with grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. while they're there, it makes sense to, so that Johanna and Karen aren't racing between buildings, so she'll do all 4 grades at Marston.
Motion, Ginny?
Yes.
Moved by Ginny, seconded. Andrea? Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that takes care of those. Did you have anything else in your report?
Just a couple of quick things. Just in response to last month's meeting, we talked about cell phones, and you wanted to know
Yes.
about cell phones in the parent-student handbook, and they're not in there, but they're in the addendums that the principals do. They add other things specific to their buildings, and so I just wanted you to know that students are not allowed to use cell phones in school, and they must keep them in their book bags. And if they choose to use them, then they choose to lose them during the day, and the principal keeps them in their office. That's been the procedures that we had. It's mostly in the middle school that issue even comes about. The other one was in response to our annual discussion around hats, gum, flip-flops. And, the best answer that, and we talked, the principals and I talked, and the best answer I can come up and give you is that they work very hard on continuity and trying to make sure that those rules are adhered to at all 3 schools. Are there youngsters that may slip through with gum? Yes. So, anyway, I just wanted to respond to that. Other than that, I'm...
Okay. Can we excuse the principals?
Yes.
That- Go watch the Red Sox.
Quickly, in your packet on page, I don't think we have it, it's after my report, but it is the enrollment report, and you can see that we have dipped down from last June by about 50 students. I expect that will change very quickly now that the Seacoast Festival is over, and we'll see a rise in our enrollment. On the back page, you'll also see the class sizes by grade level and what the average class size is in each of the grade levels. So I know that you like to see that. I think that's
Okay.
it for me.
Mr. Lenny?
You acted on the most important thing I had for an action item. The only other thing was that tonight I handed you a revised copy of the student activities report. I had pulled a report, so I've made comments a couple of times to you that Mariah has worked with the school secretaries to move the student activities out of all of the different places where they documented that and kept it, moved it into the accounting system. Unfortunately, it was the first time I had to look in the accounting system to find the balances, and what I gave you showed the revenues, including the beginning balances. So it doubled up the beginning balance amount, so this is just a revision. But it's a great thing that we have that, and it's backed up, and it's auditable, et cetera, so. Beyond that, I will tell you that the number I shared last month, is what we'll move forward with. We had 172,908 was the budget surplus, and the revenues will give back from last year $119,615. So the total fund balance that'll offset or reduce taxes is just over $292,500. So combined, it's way better than where I thought we would be, and we can all remind me in years to come when I think we're in trouble. That's why I didn't want to sound any alarms. We didn't freeze anything. Just special ed took a run, and we kept up with it, and it was nice. So other than that, if you had any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Lenny?
I've got 2 questions. Number 1, on the Hampton Academy student activity funds.
Yep.
Are we missing ski club?
I don't know that they keep, they might bury that in athletics, but I don't know that there's ever been a ski club account that they have, well, I know that they haven't documented it because it's not in the system.
Do you think it would be advantageous to document that? I mean, you've got it in Marston as 0. So Marston doesn't have ski club anymore?
Well, they do, but they're not carrying any,
Oh. any
they're not
fund,
doing any
okay,
funds,
okay, I
any
got it,
fund,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So they're still doing the ski club and they're still going, but
I think it
we
goes
pay directly to the mountain,
They
right?
just direct it to the mountain, to the people at the
Oh,
mountain.
okay, okay.
Once upon a time, there must have been, and I'll drop that ski club off Marston now if they don't continue to use it, so,
Okay, but that's what the confusion is.
yeah.
At what point do we stop fundraising? I mean, we're carrying doubles what we brought in, I mean, what we started with on some of these accounts, all of these accounts. And I mean, to carry $98,000 at Hampton Academy, are we still gonna fundraise? and-
So are you looking at the new one tonight or the old one?
I'm looking at the 2018.
So grab the was that at your
There's
table?
another one that
Yeah.
came, Jenny.
So,
Oh, there's another one?
so
Oh,
I gave them the Dickens.
That's
I was
the
gonna,
old
oh,
one.
wait a minute, okay.
So,
This is the revised.
so look at the very bottom. At the one you had, it looked like they had doubled up, and I said
Yeah.
exactly that. I said,
I'm going, wait a minute.
what are you guys doing? You're raising more money than you're even coming close to spending, and they had doubled year over year. Well, the reason they doubled is because I had the beginning balance, and then the beginning balance was a revenue as well, so I had overstated. And so now you'll see that they actually, all three schools combined came in with 80,000 and left with 70. So now it's more consistent with the way it has been.
Okay.
And that's, I apologize, that's why I brought the revised document. I gave them what for, and today, that was at our meeting Wednesday, and today, last week, today I got an email from Melanie over at Center School saying, I have worked to try to reconcile this thing that you brought, or that Tim brought back. She said, I don't know where you're getting this, so then I looked at it and realized my mistake.
And how's lunch sales doing? Are we
So
staying even?
she's just getting started this year. It looks like this year will be similar to last. The sad part is that last year she ultimately lost 10 or 12 grand. The big change there was that last year, or the previous year, we had $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 worth of income with Head Start consuming. We didn't fill that gap. Breakfast really has rebounded over the last couple of years and actually made gains. But the lunch program, as we move forward and there continue to be changes and we can, the macaroni and cheese can go back to being creamy looking instead of gray because of the, it's hard though because I know in talking with Mary, she's really reluctant to drop many of the nutritional advancements that we've made. And the pizza slice is continuing to be, the pizza continues to be a big draw and a big sell, but that's the smart AA, AAA, whatever slice they're talking about from the different vendors that she buys from, and that's tipping the scale at better than half whole wheat in the crust, and we still manage to sell a fair amount there. It's working to try to take advantage of all the flexibility that comes without giving up on nutrition, because there are a lot of good nutritional moves that were made in the last few years, so.
How about staff lunches? Have those gone up or down, or they
She
stay
didn't
the
change
same?
the price on
she
those.
didn't?
Those are at $4.25 or $4.50 as for a basic meal. We continue to monitor. There's a reporting, just so that the board knows, as a part of the annual application process, the USDA demands that we do a documentation that shows that our federal program is not subsidizing alternative programming like adult meals and banquet catering, that kind of thing. And so we have to show the cost of food and estimate or calculate the revenue stream that is tied to the program against its own costs to prove that essentially that we're charging a fair amount for all of the other things that aren't student school lunch and school breakfast. And we do well. I mean, we're not making a big profit on all of our additional things, but we are making more money than it costs so that there's no, well, not more, how do I say that? The federal money isn't subsidizing adult meals or isn't subsidizing the catering stuff that we do in the district, so, or the turkey dinner at the elections tonight, so.
The town pays for that, though, right?
She does bill out for that.
Okay.
I don't remember what the billing looks like, but yeah,
We're
she's,
tripling that, though.
And Head Start, they still went with their own meals?
they're continuing to
So they don't use
truck it
our
in.
refrigeration, they don't use
They
anything?
truck everything in from Seabrook, I think the Seabrook kitchen.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Do we, have we made adjustments to Mary's budget because of Head Start? I mean, obviously, you know, Head Start added to the program, so it was a
Yep.
plus. And then if we didn't adjust,
Yeah.
We didn't.
She, yeah, I mean, she has, the
It's
only
gonna
thing.
show her in the negative.
The only thing, I'm on camera, so I don't wanna Head Start to think that I took it unfair advantage, but we did have as a part of the billing arrangement, the contract with Head Start, that we billed them an extra hour and a half every day, and the rate we used was our highest hourly rate.
No, I
So-
understand that.
So there was some there, but we cut that hour, the person that was working the extra hour to do that work, that went away.
No, but I'm talking about the food budget itself, the actual food
She,
budget.
well, yeah, I mean, she certainly doesn't have to make as many
We're not buying
meals.
as much. In
Right.
other
Well,
words.
yeah, and it's still
we're-
little
we're-
kids.
Let's say we're
But the-
buying $10,000 less in food.
But the blessing was that there was little or no, the way Mary runs it, there was a minimum amount of additional food cost. Because what Head Start did was played right into the kind of, I don't want to call it the waste stream, but they played into the number of meals that we had to, the 18 or 19 extra meals a day, worked, okay, so we didn't have to buy a whole lot more.
No.
Right? So it was a perfect storm to work with Head Start that way, because it took advantage of the variance that she had built into her program anyway. So we have worked to cut some of that out, but I don't know that we can cut out as much as they were worth.
So, okay, so I need to understand Head Start, right?
Yeah, okay.
They lease space from us,
They
correct?
do.
Okay. And that space happens to be at Center.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, and is that a contractual?
Mhm.
So how
On a-
long does the contract run?
1 year at a time
And we renewed that contract?
for this school year.
Do we bump the contract?
Do we bump, I mean, we calculate, there's a formula that we established 3 or 4 years back that's based on total square footage, total cost, custodial, overhead, you name it.
And with cost increases
and
coming into
there have
the
been cost
district,
increases, yep.
heat, et cetera, that's built into that?
Yep. And that's a revenue that we see every year, but it's not, I mean, it's $10,000–11,000. It's not a huge space, the space rental's not enormous. And that cut back because the first year that we did it, or the first two, it was
It's more
2
space.
rooms, it was more space. They backed off now to
Only got
1 room.
right?
So they just use the 1 classroom.
And how many students they have in a class?
18.
18. And are they full?
I don't know that.
Okay.
We'll
And they
know
used
that
to have
next
2
month
rooms
at our
30.
meeting.
They used
Okay.
to have 2 rooms at whatever the rate was, yeah.
No, 30 kids.
I think it was, I don't know if it was 30 kids or.
They
It
had
used to
about,
be.
not that many.
Not that
They had
many.
8, when they had 2 rooms, they
Yeah.
had probably about 25, 26.
Total.
Right, but now they're at 18.
And we don't know how many of those were from Hampton.
I want to say it was 8 to 10.
Okay.
It's a regional program, as you all know. When Seabrook opened up their new facility, I think that took some of the youngsters from here, and they're staying in Seabrook.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lenny.
Thank you.
Anything else before we go to minutes? Okay.
Are you talking other?
Well, what do you mean by anything else?
Well, I know we're going into non-public.
No, okay.
Okay.
Okay, before we go to other, but I'm assuming
Well,
this is
then-
under other. I'm never sure where we are.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to address the fact that the heat. The heat was, in my opinion, a major issue. And I guess I would like to go forward hoping that maybe in the future, the superintendent would either let the board know directly or indirectly what the thinking is in regard to,
Can't we
Not
can't we
having.
just put a policy together?
well,
regarding that?
I had thought about sort of more procedural thing, like if the heat index, or there's a heat advisory, that perhaps the board be consulted either directly or indirectly through the chair regarding the decision about half-days, et cetera, et cetera. But then I thought, well, maybe just a discussion, we could just discuss it, and maybe just in the future, if we have weather emergencies, I guess I would just like us to be in the loop a little bit more. And I know, I just felt like there was a lot of public,
Outcry.
and I'm not even gonna say outcry, but I agree. There was a lot of public comment directed toward, well, I know myself as a board member, and I think maybe others, and it wasn't in our realm of being part of the decision. So I guess in the future, I'd like to suggest that perhaps we be part of the discussion in regard to, like, and I'm not just talking the heat advisories, but any serious inclement weather. And as I said again, it could be directly with us, or it could be indirectly through the board chair. So that's my.
Well, how do you handle the extreme heat and humidity at your?
How do I? I turn up the air conditioner.
Oh.
For my last 12 years.
I asked for air conditioning. I asked for air conditioning.
For my last 12 years. The other 20 years, we went no matter what, and we used fans, we used water, popsicles, shade, that's what we did. But when we moved down to High Street, we did get air conditioning, so that was very nice.
And I'm not
I had to
gonna
get
say,
air conditioning
and
in
I'm
the
not gonna
building,
say
shut it
that the
down.
staff didn't do everything in their power to make the students as comfortable as possible, because I know they did. I guess I would just like it to be maybe a matter of procedure that we as a board, again, as I said, either directly or indirectly through the chair, just get to weigh in maybe our thoughts on
Does that
on the heat
include snow
advisory.
days?
Well, and I
At
thought about,
4:30 in the morning,
I
or-
thought about
Well,
that.
I'm just trying to be, clear with you, Andrea.
No,
It's
I thought
4:30,
about that.
4 o'clock in the morning, it's 11 o'clock at night with
I understand.
Chief Sawyer. It could be,
I
it could be
understand.
Jamie Sullivan calling me at all hours, really, or Dave Hobbs, who calls me at
I-
all hours.
I totally
I just-
understand, Kathleen.
I think you have to have some trust that I make decisions that are right for the kids. And we didn't have any other schools except Seabrook, which had a specific reason for
I
that.
understand that.
Cancel school. And I realized that the heat index was high, but the index is, and Nathan and I looked at this, because the heat index is when you're outside working and playing, or sports or whatever. All of our children were inside with recesses and times outside limited. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I knew that you would discuss this tonight, because it was an issue. I got one phone call, and I didn't get a lot of pushback on it, but I made sure that I was out in the buildings, Nathan was out in the buildings, and we walked those buildings and made sure that the kids had water, fans, shades were drawn, and if somebody was experiencing difficulties with the weather, then we had alternatives, that maybe it meant going into another room that perhaps wasn't as hot as another room. So I just think that,
So
I don't
what-
have any problem notifying you, but if that's what you want, it does include early morning calls
and I-
and late at night calls and in the middle of the night.
That's
So-
why I said directly or indirectly through the chair.
Yeah, but-
Yeah, we
Well,
couldn't
I
have
would
been 3
say
a.m.
this about that.
Who does it?
When you're talking snow days, when you're talking ice days, when you're talking hurricane days that we've had, when you're talking the schools have lost power, you know, it's complicated to put too many people because sometimes the phones don't even work and you can't contact people. So you have to rely on someone's good decision. And I wouldn't want to change much in that regard. I wouldn't want to complicate things because it's difficult. Having said that, I've been in classrooms when it's been 98 degrees. I got comments from teachers. I got a lot of comments from teachers who said to me, I wouldn't have brought my dog into that classroom. I said, well, maybe you could bring a bowl of water for the dog. But you have to be sensitive to those kids when it gets that hot in some of the classrooms.
Well, if I can interject, okay, and I'm just gonna paraphrase our governor, who feels that school should start after Labor Day, okay? And, you know, I understand where we're coming from, we're only talking 3 days, we can find the 3 days. Okay, but I'm suggesting we look at starting after Labor Day. We live in a resort community, go ahead.
Our governor has no business sticking his nose into Hampton's business. He's for the state of New Hampshire. He's a native of Stratham and Exeter, and the Sunoos have been around forever. I know John and Nancy,
but a lot of schools now are looking at it because of the heat.
And we fought that battle, Frank. We've gone to
We've
school
had
before
at
Labor
least-
Day, after Labor Day.
At least 3 surveys
Yep,
since I've been around,
yep.
surveying parents about starting before Labor Day, when historically we went after Labor Day and we were gonna move, and we surveyed parents, and that's when we were part of SAU 21 and so on and so forth, and resoundingly,
They want.
parents pretty much said, once the fall sports start at the high school, you might as well be in school.
The only thing I can say to you, Frank, is that the 3 days that Andrea is referring to are after Labor Day. I mean, I don't know when it ends. I mean, we're gonna get some warm weather coming at the end of this week, so I don't know as we're ever gonna.
I guess I would just,
hear you.
I guess I would just like to be able to say, when people say, was the board aware?
With after.
You had to
That
walk
sort of thing. I
4
think
feet
I
of
would just like to be
snow.
able to honestly
right,
say, the
that's right,
board was
that's right.
aware, the
You
board
did too.
chair,
Uphill
you
both
know,
ways.
was notified, or,
How to get the skis
I
out.
I'm not trying to
I don't
be
have a
picky.
problem with notifying the board at a reasonable time, and I would email Les,
That would be
obviously.
fine.
But that isn't just how you presented it right now. You were looking, I sensed,
was-
I could be wrong, I sensed that you wanted to have input into the decision, and all I was saying is, I hate the decision-making. It's very difficult. I talk to my colleagues. I don't do that in isolation,
no, I
and you know
understand that. I know it's not a
So,
unilateral decision by any
it's-
stretch of the
Right,
imagination.
it's checking in with everybody. What are you doing? What are you doing in Rye? What are you doing in Portsmouth? What are you doing in Exeter? I did all that. I talked to Bill Limpini. Bill called me when he canceled Seabrook School.
Right, and that was a different scenario.
Right, because of the construction issue. So I don't have, I just thought, we had 6 days, 5 days? Now, you're 5 days and you haven't even touched your winter weather.
Yeah,
But if it's about
we have to look at
notifying
all
you,
the
I
other
have no
districts,
problem with
though.
that. I mean, I would do that.
Well, I mean, that's why we separated, right?
Right?
I guess I would like, I would like the
Make our own
board,
decisions.
like I said,
If
maybe
that's the
even
case, we're ready to go
indirectly,
back.
through the chair, to be notified that this is happening, so that we don't then hear the next day in the community, well, did the board make this decision? And it's,
Well, it's
I don't want to
simple.
throw
The
it all
board
on
doesn't
you,
make-
and I don't want to throw it all on us.
Well, you should. I made the decision. You shouldn't. You should say that's a decision that the superintendent makes. And if you're not happy with that decision, please call her. And I took calls. I answer them. I talk to people. I don't have a problem. In this case, I only had 1. I usually have more in the winter.
Yeah, and can we solve the blizzard bag situation before winter weather starts?
Right. We haven't gotten a
I
great
call it 7
support of
days.
that issue at all. As a matter of fact, a number of teachers have spoken to me about it, and they really do not like it, so.
Okay.
I don't have a survey from them. It did come up with the union, but it was very limited. so.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up for discussion.
no, I
Because
hear
it
you.
was a scenario that is not, it's not the usual scenario.
Right. Rarely do we have weather like that.
If we had put a swimming pool in the junior high, or air conditioning, we would be all set.
So you made a decision with the new project, Hampton Academy will have a dehumidification system. That means that all of that humidity that was in
Right, will
the
be
air
gone.
will be removed from Hampton Academy, and that building will be at least 10 degrees cooler. That's the general rule. My thinking is that down the road, if this works, we might want to look at that at Marston and Center. Although very different schools to do that in because of the
But Hampton
configuration.
Academy was definitely I felt was the worst building. I don't know why, but
I think it
was the
was
second
only in
building
a
I
couple of
visited.
rooms that it was really bad. It was the south exposure that was warm.
And there's no air circulation in that building, but hopefully.
Well,
with the
right,
new
there's the
building-
other problem, right?
Yeah, that's the other problem. There's never been any air
Right.
circulation.
okay, well, thank you for letting me bring it up.
But now, speaking of that,
So-
can I just throw in one other question?
Can I just make one more comment? So, Mr. Chair, what would you like me to do?
I don't think anybody's made a motion or anything to change what we're
I'll make a
doing.
motion.
Okay.
Continue what you're doing.
Well, we don't need a motion for that.
Can I ask a question on the building? Where are we on that? Are
We,
we still online for the 26th? I'm concerned about
yes,
that.
yes, absolutely, October 26th. We are online. Matter of fact, next week, we'll begin the gym floors. All the windows are in, all of the electrical plumbing, some of the big heating systems up on the roof on the 65 edition are going in this week. You'll see them drop on Saturday. I think we're in great shape. We talked again, Nathan and I are there every week, and you'll get a sense of it with a walkthrough next week. You'll really get a sense of it. It's hard to tell right now because you go into a classroom and it's covered with paper to protect the floors, and so, and the cleaning people haven't come in yet, so there's still cardboard over the sills. The sills are all like
All the windows
Corian, so
Yep.
they're covered
Glass
with
is there.
everything. I mean, it's,
Except for a couple.
Yeah.
There's a couple that, because they're moving product in and out.
Yeah. No, as long as we're on set, because I'm just concerned about the 26th.
if you notice today, you'll see them landscaping, right behind the gymnasium. Our landscaping contractors are out there. It looked great, so.
And how about the big concern here, grading of the outside, make sure the water's
That's-
not gonna come back in
No.
like the old building, remember the old building?
You know that this company, they spent an incredible amount of time. You can't see where you spent a lot of money. It's underground. Ensuring about drainage off
Okay.
roofs and drainage coming down off of High Street, which is where we had problems, remember? It all backed up.
Yeah, in sixth grade wing, I remember.
Right. Over the next couple of weeks, you'll see the porous pavement come in where the courtyard is for the kids, where they're gonna stand. That'll be done over the next week or so. So we are in great shape.
So I want to
Nathan,
manage
jump in.
expectations a little bit, because we've been walking the building, taking inventory and talking about furniture and talking about, wow, I think we need a jack there for data, we should have, I don't know why it's over there, this would be better, all the details. This isn't the grand opening, and that's the hardest part of the way we're doing this. I walked into the student entrance and I thought, we backed off from putting all of those display cabinets, for the trophy cases and stuff along that wall. And I said, holy cow, you gotta put something there, like a painting or a screen, or it's too blank. But some of that was budget-wise, and it was waiting for, it's gotta come out of the other building. Does somebody wanna dedicate that? Does somebody want a name on it? There's so many working pieces, so there's some element. The cafeteria is gonna have the same furniture in it that it's been. It's the same cafeteria right now. They haven't opened up the kitchen or done. So I just I want everybody to know, it's gonna be awesome, and the mechanicals are gonna be in place, and it's going to be the new wing. But next summer is gonna be a whole lot more exciting in terms of the finishing touches and things that we'll be able to put in there. So I just throw that out, because I started to notice as I was walking around and went, oh, that's such a cool hallway. except it's empty. And it probably will be empty, because for right now, that's what it'll be, so.
Is there any other, under other? Okay, if we can go to the minutes of August 14th. On page 62, we accepted the nomination of someone for math interventionist at Hampton.
Right.
She,
And she
She left.
She left
Okay,
before she got
yeah. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of August 14th.
second.
Yes.
Second?
Ginny?
Ginny? Discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Okay, the non-public minutes are actually the non-public minutes of August 14th, not July 10th. I didn't change the date. They were the previous month. I did.
That's all right, we haven't voted on those yet.
Good, so that's the date. I've already changed it in my copy, and I
Okay.
apologize.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as amended for August 14th, non-public.
Second?
Second.
Ginny? Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, I believe we have to go into non-public under, this is personnel. So it is
Make a motion to go into non-public under,
RSA 91A3,
right.
2A. Yeah. Roll call, Frank? Ginny?
Aye.
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
All right.
Who was the second? Frank?
Me.
Andrea was,
It
I
was
made
Ginny.
the motion,
Oh,
Ginny seconded.
Andrew
Jimmy did,
Ginny.
thank you.